So what do you think is next in the digital engagement space and social?
Yeah, great question. I see the role of the employee fundamentally changing. The reality is when you start to look at, social media, this is about relationships, this is about connections. As an organization, more and more customers are moving online, talk about your brand. And the reality is in order to really scale this, you've got to activate those employees, train them and activate them to go meet those customers, listen to them and engage. And I think that role is going to be fundamentally changing for organizations. And I think that's what's next.
That's great. So what kind of challenges do large enterprise organizations encounter to activate employee communities?
There are a few challenges. I think that it's very scary for organizations to think about their employees kind of carrying their brand forward. It's definitely a loss of control. And there's risk out there, obviously, if employees are not trained accurately to do this correctly. That being said, from Dell's perspective, we trained over 10,000 employees, and we actually saw the risks go down immensely with employees having those knowledge information. They were able to go out there and be more effective using social media.
So you did bring up training from an employee perspective. How do companies scale that training? Because there's so many large enterprise companies that have thousands of employees. How do you scale the training for those kinds of environments?
It's a great question, Greg. I think that a couple of things. First you need to think through why are you training your employees? Like, how do you want to activate them? And then based on that, you can go after certain organizations that you go and train. You can obviously scale this through train the trainer. You can do it through online. There's obviously in person as well. But I think it gets back to what is your ultimate purpose and how you want to activate your employees, and then strategically approach it that way from the training.
So if a company was to come to you and say, I want to activate my employee base, what would be your first piece of advice to them to get started?
There's some key decisions that they have to make first around what are the employees' roles and how will we define them. What's the governance model? How is leadership involved? Because leadership is key in supporting them. What are the metrics and measurement that we want to effectively measure for this activation program? I think that those are all key decisions that have to be made before they actually go out and develop training. Anyone can go develop Facebook 101, Twitter 101. The real trick is this employee can do this role, be involved in these conversations, represent the brand this way, have these type of SLAs, whatever it may be, and I think that's the part that has to be defined first before you actually go out and train employees.
When you look at the challenges companies have with maintaining the subject matter experts in the programs and diffusing that knowledge throughout the enterprise, what are some ways that you have seen that are successful to build that sort of internal knowledge sharing capabilities?
So there's definitely a lot of internal social media tools. When I was at Dell, we used Chatter, and that was a fantastic tool for bringing these like-minded employees together that were utilizing social to have conversations online, to resource and house rich training materials for them. So I think that's definitely one to really scale. I also think events in person is very powerful. I'll be really honest. We did a lot of conferences at Dell and felt bringing those employees together for a full day and really helping them strategically talk about social and how they should be measuring it, utilizing it, and just getting them excited worked very well for our culture.
How much of the excitement and inspiration plays a role in energizing the enterprise, and how much of it is measuring and data and roles and responsibilities and accountability?
That's an interesting question. I would say that the cultural piece of actually exciting them is pretty important. If you think about it today, a lot of employees, social media is not their role. And so, we're going out there and asking them to play this brand advocate, to go out and to do stuff on behalf of the brand because they're passionate about it, they believe in it, they want to connect with customers. And so I feel that piece, that excitement piece is so critical since they're doing kind of extra work and not getting paid for it, to put it in the nicest way possible.
What fuels your passion for this industry?
So I've been in marketing for years, and I can recall doing customer visits where we would go do focus groups, and customers were behind this glass, and maybe 4 people in a room, and I wasn't quite sure if they were even being honest with us because they knew we were there in a focus group. And doing social media employee activation and seeing that we can get employees closer to the customer than ever before really excites me. I just think that's such a powerful connection that I wish I could have had 10 years ago. And then, to see these employees getting so incredibly excited about social and the power of it, and that in turn we can be a better business, that's what really jazzes me. And it's a fascinating space.
So if somebody were to come to you and say, I love what you do, I would really like to follow in your footsteps from a career perspective. I want to help others understand digital. I want to help train large enterprise companies. What foundation do you think they should focus on? What would be your first piece of advice to them to get started?
That's a great question. So to do social media training, I think there's a lot of different skill sets that you need. Obviously, just a hunger for learning, for consuming this content in this space. Everything's rapidly changing, and so I think you don't obviously have to be a social media expert, but that hunger for that knowledge would be, first and foremost. I think that, presentation skills is a key thing in how, you develop training curriculum, how information gets presented, learning those pieces. I think those are kind of the main two.